Right, let's do it. Find the job that you love doing and you will never work a day in your life. Is this quote true? Now, I'm here to tell you, for the most positive of reasons, not quite. As someone who took their interesting conversation and moved that towards sitting in front of you and sitting on the microphone and having a conversation just in a professional way, I quickly realised that as a result of choosing to do the thing I love for work, that it's still work. And the reason why it's still work is because of exactly that fact. When you love something and when you care sincerely for something's success, it will bring with it anxieties, hard work, and uncertainty that will make you feel exactly as though you are working. Now, the point that is important, and I shall get this in quickly as to keep your sales high and not burst your bubble, is that when you work on something that is important to you, even though it will still feel like work, it is the most worthy of causes for yourself. Now, the reason as to why this is the case, we only have a certain amount of energy that we can exert towards the world. So why should we waste that on anything but the things that are most important to us and the things that we really believe in? In today's video, I'm going to make a point of how we can sort of take this quote, put it into a reframe as to look forward with a rational positivity rather than what I feel this quote slightly misleads people towards. And what that thing is, and what I shall sort of clean this up by saying, is I feel if you look at your work or look at the prospect of your work as, if I do the thing I love, I'm not going to be doing work, it's going to be easy, you will unfortunately be sorely mistaken and you might be demoralised out of doing it. Now, as someone who experienced exactly this when he was working in music, I don't want other people to feel this way. I went into music after sincerely enjoying it on my own behalf, getting something out of it and feeling as though I wanted to make a career out of it. I went into writing my own music and producing my own tracks, and I, after about 2 years or so, totally fell out of love with it. And the reason why I fell out of love with it was because it was so hard. It was such a great amount of work to get where it is that I wanted to go, and I just totally fell out of love with the idea of doing music anymore because I was under the impression that this wasn't going to be as hard as it was going to be, and as a result, I got sincerely demoralised. I think if we look at our loves and our joys and assume that creating a business model of them will constitute an easy ride, then we're going to be sorely mistaken and we might even lose our love of the thing on its own behalf. We won't even be able to do it as a hobby anymore. I think it's very important for us to look forwards at our joys if we're going to take them towards a business model and look at them with a logical perspective so that we're not just totally demoralised by the amount of work that is in front of us. It's important to remember that if you care about something, you're going to want that thing to succeed. And if you want something to succeed, all the time that it isn't succeeding, you're going to experience some feelings of anxiety, some feelings of discomfort. And even when things are going well, you're going to still feel that way because it's something you care about. My point, and why I think it's still so important that I think this quote is very important for us to keep in mind, but just have a slight reframe on. If you choose to work on something that is truly important to you, then you're going to experience far more joy than if you decided not to do that. But if you look at something and think, this is going to be a walk in the park, I'm not going to have any issues doing this at all, then unfortunately you're going to come out of the other side of that feeling lied to in many respects, because when something is important to you in a lot of ways, you will actually be experiencing more strain and more necessity to work than you otherwise would. Chris Williamson has a fantastic point of this on the fact that if you work a 9 to 5, you will have your 8-hour stint for 5 days a week, and that's your lot. If you're a business owner, you're not doing that. You're not doing 8 hours worth of work. You will do 8 hours worth of work every day, not every 5 days, every single day, probably more, plus all the anxieties that come with it. And on that front, the amount of work and the amount of mental taxing that occurs as a result of following your own craft is greater than some other things that you might not be so passionate about. But And this is why I stay the course, and why I think everyone should if it's something that really speaks to them. There is no greater purpose than working on the things that are important to you. Now, this can be a sort of a broader goal when it comes to working towards things. This could be something like working towards your family, for instance, but keeping it in the terms of business sense. When you work towards something that is important to you, you will feel such a great level of fulfillment from your craft, which is why it's important that despite the difficulty that will be in front of us, that we persist. But I wanted to make today's video to make the point of the fact that if you're working towards things that are important to you, that doesn't mean you won't be working, because, as I said, you care about them. I think it's important for us to keep this in mind so that when we encounter the difficulties that come with the craft that in question, the thing that we're wanting to do, that we're not all of a sudden surprised and think, hang on, what the fuck's going on here? I thought that this was going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth doing. So with this in mind, how do we know what is actually worth working towards? How do we find out the thing that really sticks with us and makes us feel as though, despite the adversity and despite the difficulty, that this is something that is worth the pain that comes with it? And I should tell you from experience that the best way to find out what really speaks to you is just trial and error. Keep trying things. Keep working on things that are important to you. Take ideas from people and just keep referring to yourself and what it is that actually feels right when you do it. If you're someone who gets in front of a camera and feels as though it just feels right, then continue doing that. If you're someone who feels as though writing is something that is important to you, and you feel as though of all the times you really express your true self that it's on the paper, then do that. It's very important for us to realise when we're working through finding what is actually important to us that it is just a case of trial and error. It's just a case of continually seeing what works and what doesn't. And this is a point that I would say when it comes to failure is very important for us to remember. As someone who, as I say, used to be in the music industry working on his own craft, I came out of the other side of that feeling totally morally dejected because I felt as though I just essentially said I was going to do all of these things, said I was going to be this great rapper, and then I wasn't. It just didn't transpire, and I fell out of the other side of it feeling as though I'd wasted my time and I'd let people down and I'd lied. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. It's only in moments like what I've been afforded as a result of doing the podcast that I realised this is simply not the case. As a result of my efforts, I learnt so many things that could be pushed forward into a number of walks of life, and pleasantly enough, the one that we are interacting with each other on now. I realised that the reason as to why I wanted to start music was so that I could maybe help someone with my words and maybe say something that someone understood and help them out of a bad place. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to call on my own experiences as to maybe help someone. It took me a long time to realise that that's exactly what was happening, and that my perceived failure on one front when it came to following my desire was actually a success in many respects. I think, in line with this idea of not sort of being aware of the fact that work will come your way, even if it's the thing that you love, that sometimes when you do the thing that you love, you might realise that you don't love it as much as you thought you did. You might realise that it's not something you love enough to be a business model. And it's important that if that's something that you go through, that you don't perceive this as a form of failure, but rather a repetition, an idea, a sort of a clarification of the fact that you're someone who can act upon things and bring your desire into a place where you can push forward with that. I think if you've got something that you love doing, try and do it properly. See if it's something that if you think, I'm quite good at this actually, or I could do something with this, try it. See what comes of it, but don't be sort of stuck in the mindset that you think it's going to be easy, because it won't be easy. But the positive thing that comes from this is you will learn so much about yourself, and you will learn so much about what is actually important to you. It was something that I realised very quickly after writing music, and sometimes with podcasting, is that if you love something, it is sometimes best left as something you just do on the side. Now, I've been totally contradictory there, so let me sort of clean this up as to make the point. I noticed that as of starting music and gradually realising the amount of workload that I was going through, and quickly realising how much I didn't enjoy that I came out realising I just don't like music as much as I thought I did. Now, as time has surpassed and I've moved away from sort of feeling as though I'm attached to that realm, I've realised that love stayed. There's been no cease in my desire to listen to music or my love of what music does for me. It just went through that blip of realising, it was sort of like a breakup where you realise it just wasn't the way I thought it was, but you come out of the other side thinking, well, that person wasn't too bad actually. Maybe we just went through a bad time at that point. I have noticed, probably more saliently than the slightly stupid point that was just made there, that when it comes to podcasting, I frequently find myself in that mental space where I'm thinking, God, this is hard work, man. This is stuff that's like today's a wonderful example. I should continue to do this with you because I don't see any difference between us having a conversation over a camera and sitting in a coffee shop. Today has been a very difficult day for me to get this podcast out. There were some ideas that I had on the table that I thought would be good to go through, and after recording for a little while, I just thought they were shit. I just didn't think that they were things that I thought were actually valuable enough to put out on the camera, and I don't want to do that to you, which is where this video came from, the difficulty of sort of working through things and it not working. My point is here, I realise quite consistently that even if I'm feeling a sort of adversity, the trials and tribulations of my craft, there's something that just keeps me here. There's something, that perpetually makes me feel as though what I'm doing is right and what I'm doing is, I don't know, it just ticks the boxes. There is a difference, and you will learn this difference when you put yourself towards things, that it just feels right. And the way that you find out whether something works for you is simply by trying it, which is my point of calling back in this sort of roundabout way that I'm so good at doing. If you work on something that you love doing, you will find adversity as a result of doing it, but you will feel fulfilled. It will feel right. It will feel as though something's going on there. There's boxes being ticked. I think fulfillment is actually one of the most important goals for us to work towards, and there are few ways of achieving that, and one of them is doing something that you love. If you do something that you love, you will be able to feel a sense of rightness with yourself. You will just feel in the right place. I think it's very important for us to encapsulate what it is that we've spoken about in today's video. Realise that just because something is something you love doesn't mean it won't be difficult, but the difficulty is worth enduring. And if you come out of the other side of it realising that the thing you're working on wasn't quite what you thought it was, don't be demoralised by that. There was so much to learn just by trying things. There was a quote that came to mind a few days ago on this point. I was speaking to someone of the fact that if you work towards something that is hard and strenuous and you feel as though you've got nothing out of that, then you just simply haven't seen yet what you've got out of it. There's so much that we gain and cultivate within ourselves as a result of working towards goals. It could be even these most sort of ephemeral, just things we don't even realise, like coming out of something and realising, oh look, I am capable of sitting down for 2 hours without my phone and working on something, or I can endure that bit more pain than I thought I could. There's so much to be learned from working towards things that are difficult, and it's important, keeping in mind with the example in question today, that when things are not going so well, like for me they haven't gone so well today, that you just keep trying. When something is worth doing, you just keep trying, and you will know whether it's worth doing. Because we always do.